weird timeline you're stuck in, right? Because in this reality, that's not how it happened.
No.
Probably. Who knows? We weren't there. But yeah, it'd be weird. It reminds me of, and I guess this will lead us into the next part, which is kind of, this type of technology in sci-fi and found in literature and stuff like that. But it reminds me a lot of the show Devs.
Oh,
Did you watch Devs?
I've seen parts of it.
You need to see all the parts of it because it's a very good show.
Okay.
Yeah. So wait, I don't want to go too deep into this if you haven't. What episode did you get to?
I don't even remember. It was early. You can go into it. I'm okay with spoilers. Okay.
The machine that is being worked on by Nick Offerman's character reminds me a lot of the Chronovisor because they also went back and they could see, I think, the crucifixion of Jesus or they picked these random things, but it was obviously kept secret because they didn't want anyone to know they were working on this shit. Or it's very dangerous or whatever you want to say. But yeah, super great show. But as I was looking into this, I just kept having weird flashes of that show in my mind.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, damn it. I guess I could draw a lot of similarities between the two of these. So if you haven't watched Devs on Hulu, you should check that out. It's a really good show, especially if you like Nick Offerman.
Yeah.
He's not as funny in this, but
why do you think people would go back to see the crucifixion of Jesus? Why is that such a
it's probably like a faith thing. People because there's a lot of people who don't even think Jesus existed.
I mean, okay, that's where I was leading, because that would prove it one way or another, because there's a good percentage of the people that say there's no evidence from that time period. Later, 100 years later, 200 years later, you get some evidence, but from that time period, there's no real evidence that he existed. But that could just be that he wasn't that important to the people in charge at that time, so they didn't really record anything. But anyway, again, a different subject.
Yeah, and that very well could be the case, but
that would be what the Catholic Church would go back to look at, because they would need.
But see, even that wouldn't prove anything. It wouldn't prove that he was the Son of God or anything like that. It would just prove that a man named Jesus was crucified for saying these things. The same, if you and I were to look at quote unquote cult leaders in modern day. How do people follow that guy? That's probably how they would view someone like Jesus back in the day, was oh, this guy is he's got his crazy cult with him.
But it would be important historical evidence.
It'd be enough for them to at least
Historians would find that important, because then they could prove that there was a historical figure that this faith is based on. So it would mean a lot. I mean, people that have faith, it wouldn't affect that much.
Yeah.
It wouldn't necessarily mean other people would have faith just because of that person existed, but it would be important, I think, to many religions, Christian religions, to be able to prove that.
Yeah, but I don't think the crucifixion is what you'd want to see. You'd want to see the resurrection. You would go back to the moment where 3 days later is when you would go back. You'd be like, I don't want to witness the thing. I want to make sure this dude came back.
And here, that's a good point, that maybe can throw a little bit of a wrench into the Chronovisor thing.
Yeah.
Because it would be more important. And you would think that if this is run by the Vatican, they would know that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not at the Vatican, and I can only imagine if I was there and I was making weirdly better choices than they were.
Yeah.
That, I'd currently be in a funky hat and a pretty dope ass robe.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I'm here and talking about
surrounded by incense and altar boys and
okay, we can draw the line right there, dude. Okay. It can be right there. Doesn't need to go any further. Okay. Anyway, yeah. I don't know. For me personally, this type of technology, it would come in my favor, because I would be able to just go back to the time of the Gauls and stuff like that we've mentioned, I think in episode 3 last season, giants. And I could just go back and be like, hey, Christian, there's a giant, there's a giant, there's a giant, there's an entire tribe of giants over here. There's these people, they're giants. Because it'd be, actually, what the most interesting thing with this technology would be? It would be seeing exactly how much of history was fucking bullshit.
That would be
going through take a history book with you and just go in this thing and be like, okay, all right, that's definitely fake. That's fake. That's made up. Oop, we weren't so great in this. We did this wrong. Yeah, that's where the power would come, is you'd be able to literally take all the mistakes of humanity and learn from that.
Yeah, you'd go back. Socrates really wasn't that impressive.
It was probably just like what we see influencers, like a Instagram influencer or something like that. Hey guys, hope you're woke and lit today. I hope your day is blessed. That's exactly what Socrates was, but on a weirder scale.
What if we
more robes?
Go back to the 300 story, King Leonidas holding off all the Persians. What if none of that was true? There would be so much in history. You'd go back and we built up this mythology around these people.
Yeah.
And you go back and find out that like some of these great heroes of the past were just as big of idiots as the rest of us, maybe stumbled into something, or somebody like, he's dead now, but let's write about how great he was, and we'll control his people and he can be the new god of this region.
Anything's possible if you think about it. The question is like, do you actually believe that this technology exists right now?
No.
Really? Because like the whole covenant, like almost like what you mentioned earlier with the U.S., like why the U.S. would be interested in something like that. Like they wouldn't let anyone else have that. That's like, oh, that's U.S. technology now.
Wars would be fought over that.
Yeah.
And at this time it would have been a nuclear war.
What if they already have been? Shit. We're getting places now. No, it reminds me similarly, like what you said with the U.S. wouldn't allow anyone else to have that type of thing. There's a lot of instances of that throughout history, or alleged instances of that throughout history, like with the that Baron von Trump or whatever. That book. Like, and I'm sure everyone that's listening to this has heard or seen that very viral video at this point. Because I think it either originated on Instagram or Facebook or something like that before TikTok.
Yeah.
Of this guy like literally finding a book called like some kind of adventure of Baron von Trump or something, and the kid looks just like fucking Baron. Is his name Baron?
Yeah,
I think Baron Trump, and it tied together like
there's a lot of really weird connections.
Yeah,
from over 100 years ago.
Pretty much just saying, like, alluding to the fact that maybe the Trumps were time travelers, or his.
I think that's what we've added to it. I think this one is a really weird coincidence.
But it was his grandfather, right? Like John Trump that worked for the government or something and was responsible for, after Tesla died, to go and get like to look for information.
That's the story. And
that's the story. But there's also documentation that kind of proves that.
And that also kind of maybe shows you how weird some of the connections are in this world. You know, like I think, and we were mentioning it about another episode before we recorded, when I brought up the connection Alan Dershowitz had to another story. Yeah. And some of these like rich and famous and powerful people seem to run in the same groups, for better or worse. I mean, when you look at some of the Epstein stuff, you see how bad some of it is, but also some of it's good, depending on who the people are. But they're all connected. Power is power, and power is scary for the rest. You know, can be scary. So, you know, how much did the world change? Let's say because a Chronovisor existed. I cannot say it.
Man, how many times are you going to try to get this episode removed?
But, you know, so maybe it does exist and it just changed history for the future. And now we think we live in this one world, but it's totally different. Kind of like the blue pill and the red pill type of thing.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. What I do know is I'm about to... Nice segue into this next section of the episode. Similar inventions have been scattered throughout science fiction literature, film, and television over the years, sporting different names with similar application. In the 1947 novella E for Effort by T.L. Sherrod? I would say Sherrod. Sherrod. Had it first the right time. Well, nope. Had it right the first time. Had that right the second time.
Yeah.
In the 1947 novella E for Effort by T.L. Sherrod describes a time viewer built by a poor genius who cannot get people to take him seriously. The genius uses his invention to create historical movies, which he then shows in his decrepit theater. He is discovered by a Hollywood producer who is able to exploit the viewer to create first movies, then historical reconstructions, and finally political documentaries. The last part is his undoing, as he exposes every crime committed in the name of patriotism and ideology by world leaders, resulting in the collapse of government, followed by nuclear war.
I love that.
Yeah.
I would watch that movie.
Yeah, but that's from a book in like 1947.
That's impressive. I mean, that's a cool story, and that is exactly why maybe we don't ever get to learn the truth, because we would destroy humanity. Yeah,
it's weird that people had like these types of ideas back in the day. You know what I mean? Like this level of sci-fi.
Well, also, that time period, 47, is right as we're starting to realize we can destroy the world with our nuclear weapons. Everything changed at that period. Like I came in later toward the end of it.
Yeah, you were like, what, 48, 49?
Yeah. You enjoy this, don't you?
I do.
But